Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and Assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome to actually the last episode of this whole series for Ramadan, mashallah. I really hope that our journey together this Ramadan has been useful and beneficial for you with the various things that we reflect upon together with the rest of our guests. So inshallah today we're actually down to our final episode of the series, also our last guest, last but not the least lah, right? And it's someone that you might be familiar with because she was also part of the earlier Ramadan series, and I'm truly grateful that she said yes again when I prompted her to be on the podcast again, alhamdulillah. And that is none other than Sarah.
Hi everyone, Assalamualaikum. Do you remember me?
I hope. If you don't remember, you can go to that episode.
It means they have a homework to do. What episode number is that? I think it's 101.
Maybe, yes. But yeah, alhamdulillah. Thank you for being here again.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Alhamdulillah. Really grateful to always share the space to do reflections with you lah. Alhamdulillah. There might be people who are only seeing you for the first time.
Okay.
What's one thing that you want them to know about you?
It's a very cliche question, but
Yep. Always difficult to answer, right?
yeah, because you want to make sure that you're answering it properly
Yeah.
and appropriately.
Yeah.
The last episode, like those who watch, you would hear something different. Today is going to be something different.
Because
Not so different.
life happens.
Yes, life happens.
Change happens.
And funnily, it's like me and my habibti here, we're literally catching up over a podcast.
True. We are meeting moments like this.
That is the only time we could catch up.
MashaAllah.
Okay.
So take our episode as a catch up also lah.
Probably, yes. We're gonna take it kill two birds with one stone.
Inshallah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
So
go for it.
Bismillah. Assalamualaikum everyone. I'm Sarah Fifa Ishaq. By day I navigate the professional world with an entrepreneurial heart. But what really drives me is the intersection of discipline and design. I am a big believer of the concept of soft elegance, which is the idea that our lives, our faith, and our work should be handled with intentionality and a sense of grace.
MashaAllah, beautifully, gracefully given us the introduction, MashaAllah. And speaking about grace, there's a lot of what we need lah for today's episode, because since this is the last episode of the series, today actually our goal or focus is to talk about memories in Ramadan, because a lot of times I think we are so focused on doing so much in Ramadan that we forget to like reflect or think about what is something that I want to bring outside of Ramadan, right? When Ramadan leaves, what do we actually carry with us throughout the journey? And this episode is not by all means like a discussion of fiqh or a discussion of productivity. What really that we want to achieve is to make memories, to make meaning in our experiences, be it from the emotional aspect, the intellectual aspect, but more importantly from the human aspect of things. Shall we begin, inshallah?
Yes, inshallah. Bismillah. Are you all ready?
I'm going to begin with a personal question because our direction is about memories in Ramadan. So my first question, or what I'm curious to know about, is the moment you think about Ramadan, what's the very first memory or the very first feeling that comes to you?
Okay, thank you, Hidayah, for the question. For me, it is not about the big iftars or the crowded masjids. My heart goes straight to that specific, weighty, heavy silence of the last 10 nights of Ramadan. It's that 3:45 a.m. stillness where the rest of the world is still asleep and it's still physically dark out there, but spiritually it feels luminous and that there's a strange electric connection to something so much bigger than ourselves or of a higher authority. It's that moment when you're standing in prayer or you're just sitting with the Quran in your hands and you realize that even though you are one of billions, you feel completely singular in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
MashaAllah. That sounds really personal, and it's like really your own like safe space and time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I think it's something that we don't really bask in a lot, because usually it's just we're trying to catch up on sleep, or we will always choose something other than those personal moments with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So probably one of the things that we can be inspired to want to continue to do outside of Ramadan would be to continue that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes,
Because at the
inshallah.
end of the day, we're not doing things for Ramadan, right? We're doing things for Allah. And if we can make good memories in Ramadan, why not we make good memories outside of Ramadan in a similar way? However, speaking about memories, sometimes we can be uncomfortable with memories because maybe some memories are unpleasant. right? We talk about how it's very human to struggle. We are not perfect. And maybe looking back at our Ramadan, probably at some point we feel like, I could have done more. Or, basically moments where it is very uncomfortable to be in. So this next bit is to ask you, like, what do you think are the kinds of struggle that people would usually hide their struggles during the month of Ramadan because they are ashamed because they feel like they're not doing things in the rightful manner.
Okay, so that's such an important question because we often hide the exhaustion. It's the feeling of being seen by your creator when no one else is watching. To me, there's just a quiet shame in feeling tired of the routine or feeling spiritually numb by mid month. So I remember one night, I could barely keep my eyes open during prayer. I felt so guilty thinking, is this it? Is this the best that I can give? But then I realized the fact that I was still standing there, even with heavy eyes, I still continued doing what I'm supposed to do as a Muslim. So we need to remember that Ramadan is like a hospital for the heart. Not a stadium for the feet. You don't go to a hospital because you're healthy. You go because you're hurting. If you're struggling, you're exactly where you need to be. Allah doesn't look at your speed, He looks at our sincerity. Even if you're crawling towards Him, you are already moving at the right direction.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I think what you are offering to us is to have more intentionality in our experiences, and even if that means, facing our struggles, facing challenging and very uncomfortable moments, we are still invited to welcome it, to acknowledge as it is, and to realize that that is actually an opportunity. Like you mentioned, the hospital of the heart, an opportunity to aid the illness of our heart, for example, an opportunity to come close to Allah SWT.
Actually, I pun nak tanya you balik, like, so what
Okay, so before we continue, I really hope that you have been finding the episodes beneficial so far. And I'm also happy to share that this Ramadan, we are actually helping Global Ihsan Relief Singapore to fundraise for iftar meals for those who are in need of support in their lives, for individuals, for mothers, and for families as well. So I'm inviting everyone, if you've benefited from the episode, please extend the benefit, please be part of this fundraising efforts, insyaAllah. And it's actually as low as $10 that you can contribute and that you can help, our fellow brothers and sisters to have a meal for their iftar, insyaAllah. So if you'd like to be part of this effort, please visit t.ly/iftar01, iftar01, and may Allah SWT accept all of your giving in this blessed month, and may it be multiplied many folds for the benefit of your dunya and your akhirah as well, inshallah. So again, it's t.ly/iftar01, iftar01, and you can inshallah contribute as low as $10 to support our brothers and sisters, inshallah. Okay, now back to the episode.
if you have any personal struggles, something that might be unique to you.
Unique to me.
Yeah, unique to you in Ramadan as well. That is not being, how do I say, something that people don't always discuss about it. It's really unique to you, and you feel like maybe you're the only one who's having it. You know, like, is it exhaustion too? Because for me, like, we have our work every day, and Alhamdulillah, because that's our risk. And I'm really happy with what I'm doing.
Alhamdulillah.
That is why, to me, the discipline part is really important, and making sure that I really acknowledge my own effort first, and getting Allah's validation is like the most important
The
thing.
most important thing,
The most
yeah.
important thing. Yeah. So
Because if you start to seek validation from people, it will never be enough.
that's it.
It will never be satisfactory.
Yeah.
But personal struggles, I feel, because Ramadan is always a busy month. I think at least from like a Asatiza POV, right? Because it's a busy month, people want to learn, people want to recite the Quran. There's so many things going on.
Inshallah, yeah.
Well, that is good, Alhamdulillah. But I think sometimes you get lost in between the lines of, yes, I'm doing this as an ibadah, but at the same time, the ibadah is also your work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's beautiful that your ibadah is work and work is ibadah, but at the same time, you really need to remind yourself that you cannot always give. You need time to also receive.
Mm-hmm.
As much as you teach, you also need time to learn. As much
MashaAllah.
as you give to people, you also need time to receive, so that the more you receive, the more you can give. So I think what has been helpful for me is to continue to seek knowledge, is to continue to make sure I fuel myself first, so that I know I'm not giving from an empty cup. I'm giving from a place where I learned this was really beneficial for me, and I want to pass it on to the other person, instead of looking at it as like I'm a towel and then I keep squeezing myself and just give myself without
She's not a towel.
taking care. But of course I'm not a towel. But yeah,
Okay,
those are one of
but
my
got
personal
you.
struggles. Yeah,
Okay.
but I'm sure it's not unique, because any unique struggle is actually common. It's just that people don't talk about it.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay,
Yeah.
now that you put it that way,
Yes.
if anyone here were to feel like they're alone, actually they're not alone.
Yeah.
It's just that whether we share our vulnerabilities or
Yep.
not.
And if we
Yeah.
start to do that, we'll start to see we have so many in common.
We have so much in
So
common
much, so
and
many,
similarities as
so
well.
much.
Okay,
Thank you for asking.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
You don't have to be perfect to be loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And I think looking back, when we talk about memories in Ramadan, I think that could be, our perspective or our lens, to look at it from an angle of opportunities, an angle of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's really important. Because if I start to look at things from the angle of, oh, I'm lacking in this area, I did not do this, I did not do that, it will just be very spiritually demotivating. But like how you mentioned, right? Your eyes were barely open. You tried to keep it open.
I hope I'm not the only one.
But you recognize, mashallah, you recognize that you were still standing there. You recognize that I'm struggling with my eyes right now, but
Yeah,
I'm
you're
actually
still doing
showing
it.
up. Yeah,
You're still
you're
doing
still
the
doing
solat.
it. And I think we always expect perfection lah,
Yeah.
right? When we want to do something. But again, God tells us to show up in the capacity that we're able to. Not much of perfection in what we do, because sometimes the idea of perfection scares us to the point that it paralyzes us, which makes us not want to do anything at all lah, right? But showing up, still standing, let us acknowledge every bit of our effort when we do that. So speaking about acknowledging, while acknowledging our struggles is important, we also need to acknowledge our win, right? Our invisible victories. What do you think are some of the invisible victories that people may have experienced this Ramadan, but they actually overlook that actually happened?
Okay, I truly agree with you earlier on when you say that we may be so hard on ourselves. I feel like I personally often do that we miss the miracles that we are actually performing. To me, an invisible victory is that split second of restraint. It's that moment you were frustrated, hungry, or your energy's been depleted, but you still choose a kind word instead of one that is unpleasant or a sharp one that you know could hurt others. Those micro moments of self control are exactly what the fast is designed to build. Isn't that right?
Yeah,
Zaza?
so true.
If you manage to hold back your temper just once, or you offered a smile even when you feel empty inside, you didn't just survive the day, you conquered your ego.
And that is a win already,
Yeah.
right?
And if you haven't given up on trying, you have already won. Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. That's really nice. I think what you're offering to us also at this moment is to just look back at our Ramadan and to notice those very small, minute moments, those moments where sometimes we think it does not have any worth because no one is seeing that. Like, no one will know that I'm smiling meanwhile I'm going through a hard day.
Yeah.
No one will know that you, in a split second, chose to be kind instead of hurting other people. And sometimes because it goes unnoticed, we tend to equate it to something that is not worthy or has no worth at all. But actually, time and time again, we forget that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
Yeah.
knows. And it's these moments where these invisible victories are supposed to be that connection that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to know that, people might not see this victory, but Allah sees it. And
Yes.
at this moment, that is the most important thing.
Exactly.
Because if people celebrate my victories, but I do not have any victory that Allah is proud of, then what's the point, right? So it's the little things, and I'm sure, for those who are listening, I'm sure you have walked through Ramadan and you have experienced those moments. And in the way how Sarah beautifully expressed it, can we also acknowledge that as our invisible wings lah, insyaAllah. Okay.
Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, we're actually down to the last question. MashaAllah.
I couldn't feel it actually.
Time flies. Looking back at all of like the other 9 episodes of this series, and then this is our final episode, looking back at everything that we did, everything that we learned this Ramadan, I'm just wondering if, someone could carry just one thing from this Ramadan into the rest of the year, what would you hope for it to be?
I would hope for a shift in our direction. During this month, we've practiced being so aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before we take a single sip of water, for example. I want us to carry that awareness into our daily needs. I want us to practice vertical living. We spend so much of our year horizontally, running to our friends, to social media, or to people to fix our lives or our life's problems. We essentially beg people for what only Allah can provide. My hope is that we carry this rule, which is to speak to Allah before you even speak to people. If you need to ask, then ask from Allah. If you need help, seek it from Allah first. And also because Allah Himself said in the Quran to call upon Him and He will respond, not to call upon Him at the last resort. When you stop begging the creation and you start asking from our Creator, you gain a dignity that no one can ever take away from you. And that to me is the ultimate freedom.
InsyaAllah, that's a really beautiful takeaway from today's episode and also from the episode that is the last one for our entire Ramadan series. And I love how you mentioned about, constantly turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, speaking first to Allah. I think that's something that we do a lot in Ramadan. And I hope that we do that for Allah so that we can bring it ourselves, the month of Ramadan, insyaAllah. For all of us at this moment in time, I think what we can do for ourselves is to be able to make space to name what Ramadan meant for us, to honor our imperfections along the journey, because that is what makes us human, and to gently ask how we want to remember, this blessed month years on from now. And as this series comes to an end, this Ramadan, mashallah, let us take a moment right now, whether it's daytime or nighttime that you're tuning in to this episode. Can you spend time to just write down one memory that you want to remember from this Ramadan? Write it down. Tell yourself that I don't want to forget this particular memory for no other reason but, of course, for Allah, and so that it can be a driving factor for you to create much more beautiful memories in the next Ramadan that we will, insyaAllah, meet. So, alhamdulillah, thank you, Sarah, for being here again and again and again on this episode.
Again.
I hope this is not the last, and insyaAllah, we can see her again in our upcoming episodes.
Let Allah decide.
InsyaAllah, insyaAllah. One last bit before we go, just to clarify, this is not my room, not Sarah's room, although she looks like you kind of fit into the room because of the color scheme.
Into it. I am in love with this whole studio when I got up to the stairs.
So we are actually now at Vivre Design Studio, and the good people, Sis Rita and her team has allowed us to utilize this space for us to record this year's Ramadan series. So if you see, the interior is very much beautiful because it's professionally designed in accordance to the individual's taste and needs. And speaking of that, since we talk about making memories, right? Sometimes we also want beautiful spaces to make memories in. So if you'd like to explore more of their services, you can check them out. They have actually been in this field for more than 23 years.
MashaAllah.
And it's a very, very long time. There has been a lot of clients that has engaged their services, and a lot of them actually word of mouth. And to actually survive for that long with word of mouth, it means there's a lot of integrity, there's a lot of amanah, there's a lot of trust given to them, and they actually fulfill it to the best of their capacity. So alhamdulillah, a shout out to Vivre Design Studio for allowing us to use this beautiful space. And yeah, insyaAllah, I hope to see all of you in the next few episodes after Ramadan on the podcast, insyaAllah.
InsyaAllah. Make dua for her.
InsyaAllah, and her, and
I
you,
mean,
and all of
and all of
us.
us.
InsyaAllah. Take care. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.